Oh,
the divorce drama
Google
continues.
Tort Horny instead of Google Tort Horny.
And that is now in your history.
In 1996, Scholastic began publishing Animorphs. Over the next 6 years, Katherine Applegate and her husband, Michael Grant, under the pseudonym K.A. Applegate, produced 54 main series books, several spin-offs, and inspired a TV series, graphic novels, and a cult following. We can't tell you where we live. We can't even tell you our last names. But we can tell you our thoughts and feelings on this series, book by book. I'm Miranda.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm Chris.
And we are the Anidorks. These may be kids' books, but we discuss dark themes and mature content. There may also be some explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
So, we have a little podcast here called Anidorks where we talk about the Animorphs and...
Oh, so... Yes, because what is a surprise to Jake and Marco and Tobias is that Jeremy Jason McCole actually, they haven't thought of him as a person who has influence.
Right.
And the way Cassie and Rachel respond, and they're also saying, no, like all of these teenagers are obsessed with this person. They realize like, oh, this might actually be a bad thing if he's associated with the sharing. Like it might actually have a serious effect. And Rachel says if Jeremy Jason McCole became a spokesperson for the sharing, they'll be signing up girls like crazy. And then Jake is like, oh, this is serious.
We gotta
and then, they kind of set up that like we might have to meet him and see if we can like get more information about him or see if he's already yerked. Because right now they don't know whether he's been yerked or not, right?
And the only way you can tell if somebody's yerked
is by their smell.
So you gotta get close.
Yeah, get real close.
Gotta get real close. You gotta get it real in there. So we've cut to chapter 7. Rachel is sitting with her famous twin sisters of different age, Sarah and Jordan, and they're watching Powerhouse, the show that Jonathan, Jeremy, Jason, McCole, Taylor, Thompson is in. And it occurs to Rachel maybe she could use this as sort of a litmus test of sorts to gauge the danger of Jeremy Jason McCole being co-opted by
bad idea.
Bad idea. Yeah. So do you think this Jeremy Jason McCole is cute? To which her sister Jordan replies, a scale of 1 to 10, probably 1,000, which Rachel should have replied, as a scientist, that is a non-logical answer, and you've thrown off my curb, and now all my data is ruined. Thanks, sis.
But instead what she says is, yeah, he is cute.
And she's like, Jordan, if you ever heard that there was a club where you could maybe possibly get a chance to meet Jeremy, and she just jumps up and she's like, what club? What club? What do I got to do? Where do I got to sign? Is it in blood? What do I have to do?
I will kill anyone to meet him.
And apparently Rachel just goes silent here because she's like, which answered my question. I wasn't foolish enough to worry about what might happen if Jeremy Jason McCole came out in support of the sharing. We hadn't been worrying enough. But now Jordan has probably immediately signed up for the sharing.
Yeah, she already did.
Yeah.
She's just signing up preemptively to every club she hears about in case it's the one that he might be a part of.
Then we get like kind of a boring pivot. She has to write a paper, so she goes upstairs to do her homework.
Her mom goes out for milk. She's like, I'm just going to run to the store. Weird detail.
And Rachel's in charge. It is a weird detail.
It's weird that they tell us that she left, you know?
It's, you know.
And that
she
says, nothing's going to smush me tonight.
And that her sisters were in the living room watching that show, you know? Like.
Anyway, yeah, Rachel's working on homework. She makes a little Sun Tzu callback. Know your enemy, she mutters to herself as she's like Googling Jeremy Jason McCole. She admits that she could never really think of Jeremy Jason as her enemy.
She finds a biography on his website.
She prints it out.
It's like, this is why we have no trees left. This is it right here. It's only 2 fucking pages. Just read it quick.
And then she decides to look at his schedule of appearances, like where he's going to be appearing.
And we get another 2 NPCs named right off the bat. It turns out that he will be in town, in the town of Springfield, where the Simpsons live, and he will be on the Barry and Cindy Sue show when he comes to town. 2 days from now. She speed dials Cassie to tell him what's up.
I feel like we're not tracking like the emotional Like I kind of imagine Rachel at this point is like being already like kind of out of breath. Like, she's infatuated with this person.
You're trying to make a weird parallel because they are cousins to Jake being a cockroach with the lights turned down low.
I do think that this has that parallel. Yes, I do think this has that parallel in that I believe her intense feelings about JJM.
Henceforth known as JJM. I would love that because I keep checking what his name is.
Yeah, I'm like, can we just do JJM? That would help me a lot.
Sorry, Brandon, please.
Getting a little overworked, getting worked up, getting a little worked up. She's just excited. No, she's just excited.
Yeah, she is, Chris. That's the whole premise of the book.
Worked
she
up
literally says,
oh, you're right.
I felt like I couldn't breathe. I was majorly excited. You're like, where are you getting this in the text, you creeps?
She took a deep, steadying breath.
It's literally right there.
Yeah. We should continue, in fact, but I couldn't quite do it. My breathing was short, rough, like I was being squeezed. A swarming feeling of heat needles spread across my skin. Very similar, oddly enough, to what happened when she acquired the crocodile.
Then she decides this isn't about Jeremy Jason anymore. And I don't know that that's entirely true, but it is definitely that she is morphing into a crocodile against her will.
Yeah.
She sucked in air and pushed herself back from the computer, and that's when she noticed her hand. Her right hand was green, a dark, mottled reptile green.
Gross.
So, chapter 8, she decides to do what we all should do when we feel bad about ourselves and runs directly for a full-length mirror.
Yeah, never do this, guys. Just continue turning lights off.
Her face is just bulging out in, like, what I like to think is like a trombone shape.
Yeah. There's a lot going on with her.
She's morphing a crocodile, and she's yelling at herself to morph out, and she's morphing faster than she's ever morphed before. And she's like,
she's actually yelling, yeah, and crick. Crick.
I think you got it.
I don't know.
It's Welsh.
Oh, but she said, I think that's it. She starts to say, I started to say, but my mouth was no longer human enough to make human sounds. So, like, why even try, I guess?
Exactly.
I'll make tree sounds like crick.
She's a 20-foot crocodile now, and she doesn't fit, and she's terrified.
Yeah, her room is not that
starving, and she's like, I only got 2 small humans downstairs. That's not going to sate me. But then she manages to get her mind back a little, and she tries
Maybe if I eat both Jordan and Sarah.
She tries to morph human, and she starts morphing. But she's not morphing human. She's doing
morphing
something.
Fly, dude. She's morphing
doing
fly.
Something that she says should be impossible.
Morphing from morph to morph. This is a big deal. She's moving in a diagonal across her morphs in the Z space vector.
Yeah.
Come see my TEDx talk, Z space for the rest of us.
She falls back on a family habit and she says, this can't be happening. She cries to no one. This has to be a dream, which we know that's also how Jake copes with things from book 1. So, yeah, we get some fun little morph descriptions here. I was still a huge crocodile, but my massive crocodile head was connected to my body by a tiny narrow neck, and the area connecting my squat crocodile body to my fat crocodile tail, pictured on the front of the book, had narrowed so much it was the size of a human wrist. She's had hundreds of awful morphing dreams, but they'd never been like this. I could hear my bones squishing as they turned to water and disappeared. I think this is the grossest thing we've gotten in a bit. I could see the black-green crocodile scales turn dark brown, almost black, as an insect's exoskeleton grew over me like armor. So she's like between crocodile and... I thought she was going ant when I read this the first time.
Yeah.
But she's going fly.
Mm-hmm.
My big teeth melted together, solidified, blackened, and reformed to become a long, vile-looking tube. That was good, too.
It was pretty gross. This might be the grossest one.
Then the shrinkage kicked in. I really liked that. And then she goes from fly to elephant, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Getting bigger and bigger until she's just crushing her bed. Her bed is falling apart. The whole thing is falling apart. And everything, the bookshelves fall over, desk slammed against the wall, sparks shot from her computer, and the screen went blank.
There's a lesson to be learned here, though, which is morphing is easier if you're in bed rather than... There's no all fours moment when you're morphing in bed.
That is actually, that's a good point. We just had 3 morphs and we were spared 12
no falling over
fours moments. Whatever. All 12 all fours. I forget. Shut up. I hate all of you.
So her spark shot from her computer, the screen went blank. She was too big for the room. I love that there's just an exclamation. Too big for this room. And she's a full-grown African elephant in a small bedroom.
And that's when the floor gives out.
The floor gives out. Sickening drop. And then she's in the kitchen. Jordan and Sarah both cut from these books. They both get crushed underneath her.
So Rachel has landed on the kitchen floor. She's an elephant. Jordan and Sarah are calling the police, or probably like a fire truck. I don't know. 911. They're calling 911.
And Rachel's immediate thought is, did I just crush my sisters? Did I just make it much easier for readers to follow who my siblings are in future books? Because now I only have
one name to remember.
So she hears Jordan calling 911. And she's like, Jordan's safe. Tick number 1. Mom went to the store. I remember that now. Tick number 2. And then Sarah
that just
calls
left
out for
Sarah.
her.
Poor crushable Sarah.
I do think Sarah's crushable. I think the book's greatest failing is Sarah. I don't know anything about Sarah.
Oh my God. Every time I shut a Rachel book, I'm like so gentle because I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to crush Sarah.
Wait, can I ask, how do you visualize this? Because I don't understand how the house is hiding an elephant right now from...
I don't think it's hiding an elephant in this instance.
If an entire ceiling and room's worth of stuff fell into a pile and you were 8 years old... That might just be what a house looks like. Yeah, and then Rachel does start to morph back pretty quickly after she falls
immediately.
Through the
she starts morphing back to human, and she gets really snippy with Sarah.
Yeah, she does.
It's like
she says, "Rachel, is that you?"
And then she's like, "Who the fuck else would it be, you idiot, Sarah?" And this crushes Sarah. Sarah just accordions and deflates.
She's like, that's Rachel.
That's Rachel.
And I'm crushable. Yeah, no, we learned that Rachel's kind of a jerk when she's scared, which is a perfectly common response.
True, when your adrenaline is still pumping.
Yeah, but like also you might want to curtail that. It makes team cohesion not so doable.
She gets to go to the hospital, which is always my favorite.
Yes, yeah. She says it was total ER for a while, by which I think she just means she was in
George
ER.
Clooney was there. Right, yeah.
Yeah. Because Chris mentioned George Clooney, I kind of feel like George Clooney was maybe not but one of my Jeremy Jason McColes when I was a kid.
Whoa.
He was an adult, though.
Yeah, I know.
He was your Baywatch.
It's skewed that way for me. I feel like Chris, yours was like a Degrassi person.
You liked Ellie a lot.
Ellie and Manny. I liked Manny a lot, yeah.
Miranda, do you remember who it was for you?
As a little kid, I was really into Hayden Christensen.
Damn, dude.
I had that too. Yeah.
And then episode 3 came out when I was a bit older and I was a little less. I was like, he looked really good, but I was like not as happy with the movie.
I think JT from Degrassi was there.
JT was cute. He was adorable.
Yeah. JT was not who I was crushing on from Degrassi.
Yeah. It was confusing. It's like,
he
JT,
just wants a really?
I didn't watch Degrassi till I was in like middle school. And as a kid, it was always like weird things like characters voiced by Dennis Leary. Like I was like...
What was the show that I watched that I was like, oh, I'd watch anything with that person? Like...
That was David Tennant. Oh yeah, I had a huge crush on David Tennant.
Yeah, that one works.
I was a little older.
Mallory from Family Ties.
Mallory from
Family Ties was...
I really liked David from Roseanne.
Oh, yeah, David was a cutie.
Darlene from Roseanne.
Darlene! Sarah Gilbert.
That was one of those, like, confusing... That was one of those moments where it was like, do I want to be her? Do I want to be it's like, who do I want to be in this situation when Darlene and David were together? I'm like, am I jealous of Darlene? Am I jealous of David? Who do I want to be? Her? Do I want to be like, what do I want to do here?
All right, back to the book.
ER. It was total ER for a while. That'll all just be an aside from that. So Rachel managed to get away with the whole crocodile pit thing without much of an incident, right? No one was following it too closely. Now that she is the girl who jumped into the crocodile pit and then had her house collapse on her, everyone's paying attention to her.
Yeah, now she's the llama's pajamas, and she has a lot of reporters there interviewing her. She's not giving them much. She doesn't really give them anything.
She's
just
like,
a lot of sarcasm.
Those two things sure did happen to me.
And they're like, don't you want to be in the pictures?
Yeah. So she does a pretty good job of dodging their questions. At this point, I was like, they're all yeerked. They all know she's an animorph. And Rachel's mom shows up. Cassie shows up. Rachel's mom is ready to
sue everybody into oblivion.
Yeah.
She's just like, all right, we're going to sue the developer of the house. Yeah.
She's like, thank you for this, Rachel. Christmas came early.
Litigation horny. Yeah.
There you go.
Tort horny? Yeah. What's a tort?
It's a kind of cake, I think.
And then Rachel's dad shows up.
Yes, Rachel's dad is here, and her parents have their weird little, like, coldly polite interaction where they just say
Dan.
Each other's names.
Hello, Naomi.
Yeah, Dan and Naomi, it's just forever going to be associated with, like,
if you are in a relationship and your names are Dan and Naomi.
So her dad is here. We get some more retconning of his backstory that he is a serious journalist and not the weatherman.
Instead of a freaking wacky-ass weatherman. Yeah, what the hell?
He is just a truly American character, constantly reinventing himself.
You're right. So her dad saw on TV, wherever he was, that some girl that looked like her fell into a crocodile pit.
He was like, that girl reminds me of Rachel. I'm going to fly home right now.
And
now there's a story.
Got here just after she fell through her house.
Yes.
And he's like, I'll keep the media off of you, babe. You're doing great. You know, a lot of finger guns, a lot of like flashy, you know, taking memos, give this to my assistant, you know. And he's like, we're going to manage this. We're going to spin this, honey.
We're going to spin this. We're going to spin this. You're going to go up 10 whole points.
And maybe I'm spoiling a future minisode. I think if we rank the Animorph parents by how Yeerkable they are, he is
so fucking Yeerkable.
He is so Yeerkable. Marco's dad has weighing his options of being a military contractor. Yeah. And Rachel's dad is still more Yeerkable. Like,
Rachel's dad is like, this is you, and you say this will help me keep my hair?
Yeah. You say it's going to make me 3% more accurate on forecasts?
Because I left that lifestyle behind. I no longer predict. I don't try to predict the future anymore.
So how do you think are the Yeerks good with the mechanics of finger guns?
Finger guns?
Well, they don't have hands.
Do we think there are a lot of bisexual Yeerks? That's the question.
Oh, do you think they have a lot of little cuffs on their pants?
A lot of
bisexual. Do bisexuals do finger guns?
Oh,
is that how you know?
I literally have a shirt from Target. That's how mainstream this stereotype is. That's just finger guns that are like
that's Visser 3 energy right there. I think so. So Rachel's dad's staying in a hotel, and he basically offers to cover for. He's like, Rachel, why don't you come stay with me at the hotel? I can get the reporters off your back. You don't have to do even one media interview. And Rachel's like, what if I did exactly
one?
Yeah,
and she gives a great pitch. She's like, it'll get them off my back, so it'll be an exclusive.
We can control the story.
Yeah. And she's like, what about I heard they're going to be in town. It's just crazy. I'm just spitballing. Maybe this is crazy. But the Barry and Cindy Sue show, the episode that Jeremy Joseph Jingleheimer
JJM
is
going to be on. And she tells him that. She says that that's the reason. She says, well, Daddy, there's this guy, this actor, this kind of slightly cute actor. And that's how the chapter wraps up. But and Cassie is like, what the fuck is your 4D chess on about right now?
Like,
you need to like chill the fuck out.
I saw Cassie just staring at me with her jaw hanging open. Like she couldn't believe I was even thinking about the whole Jeremy Jason McCole thing.
Chapter 10, Rachel is at her dad's hotel ordering things on his credit card. She's a little nervous because she's on the 22nd floor and she's like, if I turn into an elephant on the 22nd floor, somebody's gonna fucking notice.
And it just so happens this is the World Trade Center on...
Stop!
I'm just saying 9/11 was done by an elephant. It was an inside...
You have to pick, Chris. There's either a cousin joke or a 9/11 joke. You can't have both in one. And this is 2 episodes at this point, so...
You're right.
I want to bring something up about what she does in a moment. What does she do, Eddie?
So Rachel does what any reasonable person does after having a very stressful day. She orders a ton of food to her
This is what
room.
I do. This is absolutely what I do.
And then what does she do, Eddie, in this book that is so blatantly a puberty metaphor?
She looks
at
for
the
hotel
pay-per-view menu.
Yeah, hotel pay-per-view.
And she very, very loudly omits an entire category on the pay-per-view menu.
Yes.
She looks at martial arts movies, crime movies, action-adventure movies.
That ellipses is doing a lot of work.
Yeah.
There's something was trimmed.
Yeah, that ellipses is like that fuzzy channel you used to have back in the day, Eddie, when we were scrolling around on your TV. You know the one. It was...
You couldn't tell if it was court proceedings or a boob, but you were excited either way.
It could have been the gavel. I'm not sure.
So actually what's happening there is it was nothing but martial arts movies, crime movies, action-adventure movies. Then Rachel scrolls onto one of those... ... She continues
Scrolls
scrolling.
to the
What I
next
needed
thing.
was a nice, calm romance.
This hits for me though, because like there is nothing more than I love than watching a truly stupid movie. Like I love Hallmark movies. I loved the Lindsay Lohan Christmas movie that dropped last year. Oh, it was so cute.
I don't usually go that far, but I will say that during the pandemic, when I was getting lots of really good high-class recommendations about what I could watch with my time while things were shut down, I did instead watch Bridget Jones' Diary and Pride and Prejudice.
So back to the book, we have Cassie calling in to her hotel room and says, hey, is this a good time? Are you alone? I'd like to come up. Rachel's like, yeah, I got time. My dad's gone for a couple hours. And then Cassie says my favorite thing in the whole book, which is like, great, I'll fly up, open a window, and flick your lights on and off for a while so I can tell which room it is. And like, I love that. It's so good. It's so practical. And
it's very nice.
It's one of those practical details that these books have been like ready to skip for a long time. It's like, I love that stuff. Like when you're doing a heist, tell me about flicking the lights on and off.
It also makes it really easy to imagine if the Animorphs were like 15 years older and they were having like an affair or something. This is how it would happen.
No!
Okay, all right. That's a really interesting
Maybe
take.
15 years. Maybe it's like 30 years, but...
So that's real neat, Eddie. But
they're in a hotel room. It just made me think of like a whole...
It's a classy hotel.
Rachel has like an inspired idea while she's flicking the lights.
Not stay in a classy hotel.
No, this is with room
with
service.
22
this is a classy
course.
hotel with 20
That's
and
a
a
good
full
point.
fucking
And a $10
menu and a
salad.
$10 salad in 1998. Do you know how much that salad would cost now?
I know. Miranda made a very good point in her comment on this that I had forgotten about inflation at the time.
Rachel, while she's flicking the lights on and off, had the foresight to order a bunch more food for Cassie.
Yes.
Vegetarian options for Cassie.
An extra dessert.
The salad.
Because Rachel originally was going to order a salad, and then she was like, no, I don't want to be healthy tonight. She's like, cancel the salad, order the burger and the pie. And then when Cassie says she's coming, she calls them back and is like, also bring the salad and an additional piece of pie.
Yes.
And they were like, this girl's been through it.
Yeah. But so now we get this conversation and you know, Rachel's been waiting for this moment. She's been like, Cassie is the one who I have my best shot at actually talking to. And like, I need to talk to Cassie. She's the only one who will understand. She's finally alone with Cassie.
Cassie makes a joke about how Rachel's going to have to be rich when she grows up because spending money is so natural to her. And Rachel's like, I have a natural talent for spending money. What can I say? It's my burden to bear. Yeah, and then they dive into, Rachel starts catching her up on everything. Between bites of burger,
she tries to dismiss it as a nightmare.
Yeah, she's
getting
like,
out of
it was
control.
just a dream. It was just, I dreamed that I morphed a crocodile and then an elephant, and then I woke up morphed. I don't know what to tell you. And Cassie's
Cassie
like, that
cuts
doesn't...
in and she's like, we all have nightmares. This is unprecedented. Like, we don't... Cassie asks, like, so you morphed a croc and made the floor fall in. Rachel shifts and says, okay, look, actually, it was my elephant morph. I think I must have dreamed the part about morphing the crocodile, but then when I went straight into another morph and then I woke up as an elephant. And Cassie looks down and says, Rachel, it's me, all right? Your best friend. You gotta tell me the whole truth. Like, what aren't you telling me here? And she loses her appetite, sets the burger down. She says, okay, look, I don't know how it happened, all right? I was online. I was getting kind of, how do you say this word, logie?
I think Logie?
Logie?
I think Logie.
And I looked this up. It was a popular word in the 80s.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Logie.
The way you do when I'm staring at a computer screen, and then all of a sudden I'm going into crocodile, like out of nowhere. And then Cassie is like, we need to talk to Axe about this. Like, Axe will understand what's going on, if it's a technological thing, if it's a biological thing, if it's a puberty thing.
What do you think Rachel is trying? What is she trying to hide when she says that she was dreaming?
I seriously think that she just has a probably very valid distrust, but like she just has some kind of underlying distrust of all things.
I don't even know. I think she wants to believe what she's saying is true, and she hopes that if she keeps lying about it, it will eventually go away without ever having to be dealt with head on.
Yeah. That sounds right. Or I was thinking maybe like Rachel likes, like her whole thing here is that I can control this. I can figure it myself out and I can control it. And if she was asleep and dreaming and morphing, then she's like, well, it wasn't me. I was asleep. But if she's awake and she's not able to control the morphing, that's a totally different thing.
Yeah. It's just that her mental math on this doesn't work out because it's a concerning thing either way. Like, no matter what lie she tells here, as she reveals any portion of the truth, it's unprecedented and it's concerning. Like,
she's attempting to minimize it, though, like to diminish it.
Exactly. Yeah.
She's like hiding something and she doesn't even probably really know what she's trying to hide.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
She's
absolutely.
trying to hide from it, I think, more than hide it from others.
Yes.
Yeah. And we get there. She says, don't tell Jake. She tells Cassie, we can talk to Axe, but don't tell Jake. He'll just get all responsible. He won't let me do anything. He'll tell me to stay home. Cassie's like, that is what you should do. And Rachel's like, no, what I need to do is stay focused. The more focused I am, the less likely that it'll ever happen again. I'm not going to let it happen. And it's such a false, like, it's just like, this isn't going to work even for like a minute. This is,
I will say though, it does remind me of something I feel like a young girl would say about her period.
Yes.
She'd be like,
that was
every
in the back
month?
Of my mind.
No, we're not going to let that happen.
Absolutely not.
Especially
that simply will not do.
Cassie's like, we should ask Axe. Maybe it's normal. And she's like, this better not be
fucking
normal.
Not be. I'm out of here like you wouldn't believe if it's normal. No, absolutely. And then the next scene has all the same sort of like ridiculous tension of not being able to control your bodily functions in a really high stakes situation. It's kind of puberty
stuff in general where it's like my body is doing this thing that, so maybe I didn't even know it was going to do. No one warned me about this. And it's like, shouldn't I be able to just simply not do that thing that's uncomfortable that my body's doing? Right. And it's like, oh, my body will.
Yeah, but you're thinking random boners. And
no, I'm not. I'm thinking of all kinds of. I'm thinking of all kinds of like puberty.
Stop.
Yeah.
That's not a
Those are not a
thing.
once
That's
a month thing. Yeah.
That's like a 9 to 11 times a day thing.
I don't know that it's that
including
bad.
Hours you're asleep, including hours you're asleep.
Okay, I don't know how many boners you're getting, Miranda, but
they've done studies.
All right. Okay, got you.
I've seen him on Reddit.
Okay.
But the entirety of puberty is your body doing things you don't want it to do.
That's true.
At least in my case. Yeah, I'm still mad about it.
Because this is the only way they know how to pivot to the whole Jeremy Jason McCole thing. Cassie goes, by the way, I had it in front of me. By the way, it turns out Jeremy Jason McCole is already in town. It's always like a pivot, like, oh, and this other storyline is also happening.
Yeah, it's like horrible things are happening. Also, that cute boy.
Meanwhile.
And we get a great moment of that here. Cassie says he's going to be staying on a big yacht. He's out there right now at this moment. So that tells us that Cassie just came from the yacht.
It was on Entertainment Tonight. He's staying on this yacht with this big movie producer. He's out there on the bay right now. Rachel goes, we still need to figure out if he's already a controller or not. I asked Jordan what she'd do if she thought that there was some way she could get close to Jeremy Jason McCole. She basically said she'd walk barefoot over broken glass. Cassie says, I'm not surprised. A year ago, I'd been right behind her. Yeah. She grinned crookedly. Love is powerful force. I attacked my burger again, Rachel narrates. So, we go see Jeremy Jason on this yacht. The movie producer guy could be a controller.
And then I just want to say, last book we had some choice words about who was left out when Jake listed people in things. It's like I had to make sure that Cassie and Rachel were safe, or Cassie and Marco. And
Cassie
lists everyone and says, we all talked about that,
inclusive
but not
Cassie.
We all talked about that. Yeah, she's like, that's what Jake and Marco and Tobias and Axe and I already talked about.
Exactly. We thought tomorrow after school we might go out there and take a little look. Jake, Marco, all of them, they're coming too. Somehow they don't seem to exactly trust you and me alone with Jeremy Jason. On a yacht? Rachel mused. He'd probably be lying out there in a bathing suit. I did not mean to say that way.
And then Cassie says, And Rachel replies, There's this scene in like Drake and Josh, and I remember this feeling being this way. There's a younger girl who comes to someone for advice. I think maybe the girl that Josh is dating, or I don't know, but she's there and she's trying to talk about like what to do when you have a crush on someone. And they're like, well, what do you think you want to do? And she's like, I just want to smash my face against his face.
Oh my God, I remember this. Yeah.
And see, I feel like my thoughts and like pubescent desires were much more like that than like I would like to see a boy in a bathing suit. It wasn't like I didn't understand like the mechanics like that. It was like
it wasn't that legible. It was like
It was like I want to become a piece of his existence.
Or you're just screaming, I want.
And the idea, I think that idea of compression is one that, like, it's like something about like, I don't know what I'll do, but I'll squeeze.
Yeah.
I'll squeeze like this. Chapter 11. Guys, we're bankrupt. I just looked at the budget and we're gonna have to shut down shop. But let's read this last chapter and then we'll read the one after and then we'll file the paperwork. Okay. Oh, coincidentally, it's chapter 11. Let's go.
Oh.
She woke up approximately 50 times during the night, making sure she wasn't morphing. And then in one of her dreams, she morphed Jeremy Jason and then morphed Fly Eyes as well. That's pretty weird.
Which I want to ping this because we've been talking about transmask things with Rachel. And she dreamed she morphed the boy she has a crush on.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's do I want to be them? Or do I want to be with them, or do I want to be them?
I'm just like
I think you're onto something.
She's deeply uncomfortable with the fact that in her dream she morphed into Jeremy Jason. That's
true.
The fly.
I morphed into the thing I considered beautiful, and it became hideous. What does this mean about me?
Now, she takes a taxi to school, which she likes because it's yellow, like the school bus. And yet,
But it
less
isn't full
crowded.
of kids throwing up like the
Yes,
school.
it's full of one adult who tells her untoward stories about people who have ridden with him recently.
That's true.
She gets into school and she gets an onslaught of attention because she's all the rage. And there are people who are like, trying to make fun jokes. And then there are people who are just jealous of how much attention she's getting.
Yeah.
And then it gets even worse because she can't just go to class like a non-celebrity. She gets some special attention from Principal Chapman.
Her yerked assistant principal. He wants to talk to Rachel because, like Chris was already saying, Rachel's been getting a lot of attention, and it's kind of suspicious. We're kind of freaked out as we're reading this because we're like, oh no, is he? Because there are a lot of clues that something's going on with Rachel.
Yeah, she's like, well, he's a controller. Did he figure out that someone morphed in the crocodile pit? And then that's me. I'm the one who was in the crocodile pit.
Yeah,
and she's
I was
like,
the
I
girl
don't know
who
what to do.
disappeared, and a crocodile emerged, and a child rode on. And then the crocodile disappeared.
Disappeared again, and the girl came back.
And that was me.
And they keep saying this thing in the books where like people keep saying that she's so lucky that she survived the crocodile attack and she survived her house caving in.
Yeah.
And she keeps pointing out that like it's not very lucky to fall into a crocodile thing, and it's not very lucky for your house to collapse on you.
Very
like,
true.
both of those things kind of suck.
And again, with the puberty metaphor, everybody's telling you how wonderful it is that you're
It's a
becoming a
beautiful
woman.
thing.
And
It's a
you're
beautiful
like, look
thing.
at that. And it's like, it feels pretty gross, actually.
Yeah.
I hate it. Like,
And so he reveals that he really just has her in because her grades are slipping, and he's worried that she isn't focusing and she's like not engaged at school, and she's gone through all this hardship. And she's like, what hardship are you talking about? Are you talking about all the alien death I've been a part of recently? And then he brings up her parents' divorce, and she's like,
she's
oh,
like,
thank
oh,
God,
right,
the
yes.
divorce.
Yes,
I'm mortified about the
Yeah.
divorce.
But then she starts to feel kind of itchy. And warm. And then
Flushed.
and then Chapman pitches,
It's happening. Oh
pitches
God, it's
this
happening
idea
here.
of this wonderful group that he's a part of called the
Where
Sharing.
you can feel itchy and warm and everyone will accept you, no matter how itchy and warm you feel.
And then Rachel says, concerningly, that's when my heart stopped beating.
But then in chapter 12, we find out it only missed 4 beats.
Yeah.
Grand scheme of
Thank
things,
God.
that's not that many.
Thank God. Yeah, that's not that bad.
I'm like clutching my chest as we're joking about this. Please don't
Let
do
me
that.
just take
Please
my
don't skip
pulse.
forward.
Yeah.
Chapman starts pitching the sharing to Rachel because maybe she hasn't seen the brochures or anything like that.
But it takes a sad, frowny child and turns him into a happy child.
Upside downy child.
It's been a while since we've heard about the signature sharing bonfire barbecues. Doesn't mention night volleyball.
The big water skiing bonfire barbecues. Night
But he
volleyball
does say-
really fell off. They tried that once, and I think a bunch of people got hurt, and they were like, "We need to come up. We need to come up with a better nighttime activity."
He does mention, Chapman mentions that a month or so back, we had a big water skiing trip up to a mountain lake.
A lot of
And
people
so
died.
now we know how much time has passed since, what, book 10?
That's true.
So this
Exactly
is very
right.
quick.
Yeah, it's like two-ish weeks per book for the past couple books, which is pretty crazy. Then he's pitching the fact that it helps children who are having a hard time and like, who, blah, blah, blah. I just thought of you when I thought of children who seem like they're going through it. And she's like, he was like, when I saw you on TV, and she's like, how did I look on TV? And this is the creepiest thing that happens since he was a creep in book 1 when he drives her home. It is awful. Book 2, sorry, yeah.
No, but if you remember, we talked about she is being inappropriately treated.
Yep,
in
by
that
Chapman
scene.
consistently.
Not by Chapman. It was a different person.
Yeah.
Right, but then Chapman comes in
But
and they
Chapman
do this.
was normal.
You're right, but there's still that literary device happening of like obvious harm to subtle harm, and that tension ratcheting. Like, I was just saved by my worst enemy.
Right, but I'm just saying that Chapman is not the one who was being inappropriate toward her
Yes.
in that first one. He is
But it
that
was-
person now, but he was involved in that scene. That's all I was going to say. And so twice we've seen Chapman involved in a scene with Rachel that has someone acting inappropriately toward her, I think. Because what he says, which I realize I don't think we've actually said, is to how did I look on TV? He says, very self-possessed, very attractive, and very mature. Very gross.
Yes,
her response is cool, which is actually usually how I responded when people were being inappropriate toward me.
Neat. Really cool.
Well, so do you think, what I couldn't tell is, like, are they putting that line in the book and meaning it to be a very loaded, weird line? Do you think it was they like stumbled into it, or do you think they're purposely evoking?
I think it's
like
impossible to tell. You really have to ask the author.
But what is your, like, when you read it, did you think it was like a deliberate?
The line creeps me out.
Yes,
but like,
well, he's grooming her for something, certainly in this moment.
Yeah, right. That's a good point.
So like, I think the same tactics being applied, but I don't think they were ignorant of the parallel, but you can use the same tactic to try to win favor from a child for any purpose.
But also, I still maintain that, like, in the second book, when they had that scene where they juxtaposed him against the person who was about to perpetrate an assault, like, if you juxtapose a male authority patriarchal figure against someone who's actively, like, yes, it's not direct assault, and yes, he committed no, like, literal crime, but I feel like we're being primed for that as an audience. Is like, there's threat here.
Yeah, she has to stay in that car.
This way.
He is in control of that situation.
Now we're in the same situation here.
I was never intending to refute your point, only the technical fact of his role in the thing. I agree with your point 100%.
Yeah. It's important to get that said correctly, because he did not perpetrate an assault in that book, but there was this, like, tone of patriarchy and awfulness.
She's at this moment, she thinks Chapman's coming in with, like, he's going to voice something to her. She's expecting one thing. The thing she's expecting here is she's expecting him to say that he knows about, that he's onto her.
That is what she's very afraid of. Yeah.
So
he says, I have to wonder.
She's expecting a showdown, right?
Yeah. I have to wonder at the same time if maybe this is Chapman. I have to wonder if at the same time if maybe you don't have some problems in your life. I mean, the stories all say you fell into the crocodile pit. Rachel holds her breath. Here it comes. He suspects, but I don't believe in accidents. He says, I have to wonder if you have some problems that made you, shall we say, careless. And then Rachel says, she laughs because she's thinking he thinks that she's suicidal.
To have that be the more positive,
the more calming. Yeah, but it does mean that he's acting as though he's completely in the dark. He's operating, and this is a good insight for how he grooms kids for the sharing. Like, this is the tactics that he uses. Yes, exactly. But once she realizes that, she can, like, somewhat play into it and just get the fuck out of there. Like, she just needs to, like, yes and get out of the room as quickly as possible.
Well, she doesn't even totally yes and. She's not like, I wanted to die. She's like, no, I'm actually doing really well. I appreciate you asking, and yes, I'm struggling, but that is not what happened. I fell. But
she has a strong reaction to this, and also the tension starts ratcheting up because she starts to morph right now. Like, that flushed feeling, that warm, tingly feeling that we were joking about a second ago, turns out to be the morph taking over again.
And this is when she realizes, as she gets the good news, she realizes her shoes are getting tight.
Yes.
As she's
and not
morphing
only
her
that,
feet.
While he's talking, they snap audibly as they get ripped to shreds by her feet expanding into grizzly bear feet.
Right, as Chapman's going, I know you say everything is fine, Rachel, but that's when her shoes snap. He's like, what was that? It snaps again. Nothing, she says in a squeaky voice. He's like, I heard something pop.
He's like, anyway, were you listening? And then she's like, I'm out of here, dude. Peace.
Because she's morphing into her grizzly morph from the feet up, presumably. And so she has to get out of the office because she has no idea what's about to happen next. And Chapman keeps droning on about the sharing. And Chapman suddenly pivots. He's like, anyway, I'm going on, and you need to get back to class.
Just think about it, Rachel. Now get straight back to class. No dawdling. and she like guns for the door.
She stuffs her shoes, her torn remnants of her shoes, into her backpack.
Which I want to note because they bothered to give us the detail in book 2 that she threw her ripped shoes away.
She was shoeless when she got into his car. That's exactly right.
So again.
Which is and we talked about this at the time, it's very troubling. Yeah. Because and we talked about it at the time, and I don't want to go too far down that road, but it is just like, there's a game you can play, not a game's the wrong word, but there's like an exercise you can play in viewing the violence that is being lined up in these books without the like fantastical Andalite story, and it just sucks. Yeah. It just sucks. It's dark. It's very dark. The Rachel books are so damn dark. Yep. Even if they're wacky like this one, they're just so dark. I do really like this cartoony section. Yes. Does anybody want to hit this?
I bent over and quickly stuffed the torn remnants of my shoes in my backpack. My feet were like huge fur boots. In fact, I stood up and headed for the door. I paused with my hand on the knob. I turned back and saw Chapman staring hard at my feet. "Oh, you like my new boots?" I asked. Chapman smiled.
"The things you kids will wear."
And she says, "Yeah, I guess I'm just a fashion victim."
Yeah. And she makes it out. She goes and gets her gym shoes from her locker.
Mm-hmm. And she just narrowly avoids insane disaster.
I feel like, and I never know if I'm coming to these conclusions because it's just the book that we're reading at the time, but I feel like adults are more of a threat in Rachel books than in any of the others. 100%. Maybe Marco is the other one where that's the case, just because it's hard not to think of that because of his mom and it's like what's going on with his parents. But for him, it's more like the parents being vulnerable in a way. Like his mom was taken by the Yeerks and his dad is like vulnerable to being Yeerked. So maybe it's a different thing. But like that's the only other one that pops into my head right now. Like Cassie, it doesn't play out like that. Jake, it doesn't play out like that. Like
no. Yeah. I think there's something special about. There's something that seems very honest about Rachel's reaction to the world and that fundamental mistrust of the world based upon attention she never wanted to get. Yeah. And I think that is really well represented, as frustrating as it can be to be like, why are you doing this obnoxious thing? I feel like it's incredibly character consistent.
Yeah, it's interesting you even say that because like a big part of this book is her getting unwanted attention because her actions have drawn like the public eye onto her.
The little factoid I learned, I was listening to a song and there was a line that was like, "I know you've had more loves than Mata Hari." And I didn't know who Mata Hari is. Do you know who Mata Hari is?
Yeah, she's a famous spy from World War I.
World War I. And she like is sort of the archetype for what we now call the femme fatale. Yeah, she was like a Dutch exotic dancer, and she led a really wild life and had many suitors and hooked up with tons of people. And then the French are like, "Can you go hook up with like the person who's going to run the German side of the war?" And she's like, "Sure, whatever." And then she ends up double playing everybody in the French shooter in a firing squad. But I was reading about her early life, and there was this section here, and it was like soon after her father went bankrupt in 1989. She had a very lavish childhood. Her parents divorced and her mother died in 1891. Her father remarried in Amsterdam. The family fell apart and she was sent to live with her godfather, Mr. Visser.
No way.
What?
Dead serious. I just like was listening to a song on my walk before we recorded, and then I was like, I have to look up who Mata Hari is because I don't get this song lyric. And then I was reading it, and then bam, right there on the Wikipedia, Mr. Visser. So good.
Wow. All I was going to say is that Mata Hari is a 1-star assassin in Fate Grand Order. So there you go.
We did it, folks. I got my 9/11 joke in. You got your Fate Stay Night joke.
Thanks for listening to Anidorks. We'll be back soon with lots more to say. Until the Andalites return, or at least until next time. See you soon.